Welcome everyone, this is Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm Owen James and this is all your latest Rangers news, guys, bringing you all the goings on at our great club. We're on 7,693 subs, guys, just 7 away from hitting the magic 7,700 and obviously 307 away from hitting that 8k target before the season starts. Well, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk some John Souttar and the fee that has been offered for Souttar and why it's perhaps not as unreasonable as many people may think it is upon first reading. We're going to talk JD Gassama and we're going to talk and put right the rubbish that has been talked about Dor Turgeman by a number of so-called Scottish supporter groups. We'll talk a little bit about that shortly. Anyway, look, let's talk about John Souttar first of all. Now, we know that John Souttar has been subject of interest from Trabzon in Turkey. John Souttar obviously entering the final year of his contract. Now, as such, if he was to stay with the club for this season, not agree a new deal, then we know that come January, he can talk to other clubs and sign a pre-contract. That's the way it works. He's only got 12 months left. That's just a plain fact. Now, because he's only got 12 months left as well, that will mean there is a depression in the value of John Souttar. You know, teams won't want to spend money on him because of the fact that they only have 12 months left to wait for him to get him for free. You know, clubs will look at it and say, well, this is what we're going to offer you. And if you don't want it, then we'll just wait 12 months and then we'll have him for nothing. You know, you will get the odd club that may be desperate and may worry about losing out on him, so we'll pay the money up front. But, you know, his value is severely depressed because of the fact he has 12 months left on his deal. You know, it really is a buyer's market when it comes to these players that have 12 months left, 6 months left on their contracts. You know, like I said, they've got that advantage. Now, according to the reports that are emanating from multiple media outlets today, Trabzonspor have offered 1.5 million euros, that's around 1.3 million pounds, to Rangers for John Souttar. Now, I get straight away there is a lot of people going to say, you know, that are going to say, look, that's ridiculous. You know, that's a ridiculous sum of money for John Souttar. And look, on the face of it, I agree. I think 1.3 million pounds is absolutely crazy. You know, it is absolutely crazy. You know, the player is clearly worth more than 1.3 million pounds. You know, he is clearly a very valuable asset for Rangers. You know, a very good player for Rangers. And as such, you know, he should be worth a substantial amount more money. Now, transfer market value him at around 4 million euro, which roughly translates around about £3.5 million. So, you know, massively north of the figure that Trabzonspor are offering. When he moved to Rangers from Hearts, he moved to Rangers on a free transfer. He did only cost Hearts $200,000 when he moved from Dundee United. Now, look, I understand and I get that a lot of you will sit there this morning or this afternoon or this evening and say, Owen, that's a disgrace. That is an absolute disgrace. The club need to play hardball on this one. And look, to some extent, I agree. But the one kind of warning that I will put on this, like I said, is with 12 months left on his contract, you are going to struggle to get market value. You are going to struggle to get a substantial fee for the player. It just won't happen because of the fact that he only has those 12 months left on his contract. Now, if Trabzonspor perhaps come back with a slightly larger offer, maybe around about 1.5, 1.8, 2 million, and say, well, that's it, take it or leave it, Rangers will have a big decision to make. And that is, do we risk it? Do we therefore try and give him a new contract and hope that he signs it? You know, probably on less wages than Trabzon are probably going to offer him. Or do we just, you know, try and push it and hope that some other club comes in for him and they offer something more substantially closer to his market value? Or do we go, you know what, we're going to lose him for nothing. Let's just do it. Let's just get 12 months out of him. And at the end of the 12 months, he's going to walk. He walks with our best wishes. Unfortunately, we've put ourselves in that position. Now, obviously, you can't hold responsible the present board. You can't hold Kevin Thelwell responsible, or Dan Purdy responsible, or Russell Martin responsible. You know, they're not responsible for allowing this contract to tick down to its final 12 months. You know, Souttar, look, whatever you think of John Souttar, whether you're a John Souttar fan, whether you are not a John Souttar fan, whether you think that he's a good defender or you think he's not a good defender, he has performed fairly well for Rangers over the last couple of seasons. He's probably been probably has been our best defender over the last couple of seasons. And I think, on the whole, he, is a player that I would personally like to keep hold of. I think he's a Scottish international. He puts his body on the line aerially. He's very good. He's good at bringing the ball out. He's passing from the back. He's good. I mean, I like John Souttar. I know he's got a mistake in him, but like I said, I tried to explain the other day, if he didn't have the mistake in him, he wouldn't be playing for Rangers. He has previously had the offer of a new contract, but that seemed to disappear once Philippe Clement was sacked, and obviously the club then entered the Barry Ferguson era, and the takeover was much talked about. So I don't think the board or the manager felt at that point they could offer John Souttar anything. I think, the situation is interesting with Robin Proper possibly on his way out of Ibrox, obviously depending on whether some sort of deal can be reached over the compensation package. I get what people are saying about his contract, but I still think he's been absolutely disgustingly greedy, and I think he needs to do one. Personally, if Robin Proper allows this move to fall through to FC20, I would stick Robin Proper with the under-21. And just let him rot. I really would. Let him rot, and then at 33, 34, he's going to find himself with no club that want him. And he's basically cut his own nose off to spite his face with his greed. So for me, I think John Souttar, with obviously the possible departure of Proper, with the departure of Nsiala upcoming, I personally would like to see him stay and obviously have a role to play for Rangers going forward. I'd like to see him sign a new deal. There was one on the table previously, but look, it's down to the board now to decide, along with Russell Martin and Kevin Thelwell, is this someone we want to offer a new contract to? Right, on the JD Gessama, there was loads of rumours going around yesterday that Gessama would be announced yesterday, Monday, but it didn't happen. The story that has been put out there by multiple media outlets, not just one here, but by a number of outlets, including some reliable ones, is that Gassama will sign a 4-year contract with Rangers with an option for 1 further year. That's one of those club options, seems to be very popular at this moment in time. Now, I think it's really interesting, listening to fans of Sheffield Wednesday, listening to fans of, fans of other clubs as well, talking about what great value Rangers are getting by getting JD Gassama. He's looking, I think the move will be somewhere between £2 to £3 million for the player. When I think this is down basically to the fact that Sheffield Wednesday are going through this fire sale. They are trying to sell off as many players as possible to cut their finances and be able to pay players and survive as a club. This is a player who realistically, if Sheffield Wednesday were in a healthy financial position, would be worth £8 to £10 million quite easily. He is that good a footballer. He's attacking, he's exciting, he can go past the player, his goal chance creation is good. Gassama is a very good footballer and is one of those players that will get bums off seats. He is exciting. And I hope that deal is done sooner rather than later. I really do. I would love to see JD Gassama signed, sealed, delivered before the Champions League deadline. I really genuinely would. And I hope that something gets done as soon as is possible on that one. But yeah, quality player. Right, let's move on to talk a little bit of Dor Turgeman. So Dor Turgeman, obviously presently with Maccabi Tel Aviv in Israel, previously played for Bat Yam in Israel. With Tel Aviv, he's made 110 career appearances, scoring 32 goals and 9 assists, so 41 goal contributions in 110. Yes, not overly impressive initially when you read it, but remembering this is a young player coming through the system, developing, probably wouldn't have started a great deal of games towards the start of his career. Would have had limited opportunities there with just 10 minutes, 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. So look, that's Dor Turgeman. He's exciting. He's a good footballer. He's direct. He's quick. He's strong. He's both footed. he's a player that is felt to have an awful lot of potential moving forward. Now, I know all of his football has come in Israel. If you look at those stats, 53 appearances in the league, 30 appearances in that other league competition, played in the championship round, which is kind of like a playoff round, played in the cups there. However, he does have experience of playing in the Conference League, the Europa League qualifying, and the Europa Conference League qualifier. So he has played across Europe. Now, Europa League qualifying, 4 games, 3 goals, 2 assists. Europa League, 7 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. So, overall in the Europa League, if you combine those figures, it's 11 games, 4 goals, 3 assists, which 7 goal contributions in 11 is pretty decent by Dor Turgeman. He's still young, he's still developing, he's still got room for improvement. This is not the finished article you're signing in Dor Turgeman. You're signing a player who will continue to get better. Now, what is the argument? What is the problem? Now, a number of so-called supporter groups within Scottish football are saying that basically that Rangers fans should come out and should protest against the signing of Dor Turgeman because he's Israeli. Look, this is ridiculous. It is an absolutely ridiculous statement. I mean, this was what was put out by Scottish Sport for Palestine. I mean, let's address the first thing. There is no such country as Palestine, so why we have a Scottish Sport for Palestine? I mean, what's next? Scottish Sport for Narnia? This was the tweet that was put out. Amidst Israel's genocide in Palestine, still actually factually unproven, Rangers fans are urging CEO Patrick Stewart and the board not to sign Israeli striker Dor Turgeman following rumoured interest in the player. And then there's a support email Rangers using this letter template. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting that the so-called supporter group could be doing this sort of thing. And this is just a ridiculous organisation. So, if you read their page, it says holding Scottish sport accountable for Zionism and promoting pro-Palestinian actions which can lead to its downfall. Tell FIFA red card to Israel. I mean, it's an absolutely dreadful organisation. An absolutely ridiculous, woke, left-wing, pathetic organisation. You've also got CELTIC fans as well coming out and calling this deal out and saying that Rangers shouldn't be signing this player, claiming that Rangers fans will protest against his signing because he's Israeli, etc., etc. I just find the whole concept that these racists, and that's what they are, Scottish Sport for Palestine and CELTIC fans, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic opinions that they are putting out against this player is just ridiculous. I mean, let's deal with some facts here. Dor Turgeman is an Israeli footballer. Correct. Absolutely correct. Is Dor Turgeman in the IDF? No. Is Dor Turgeman part of the government? No. Is Dor Turgeman responsible for Benjamin Netanyahu's policies? No. Is Dor Turgeman responsible for the Israeli Air Force's bombing of targets? No. So this is a sportsman. This is a guy who has zero to do with Israeli politics, zero to do with what is going on in Gaza, whatever side you're on. I genuinely despair at these people that try to pull this into it. Where does this stop? Do we therefore not sign any American players because they recently bombed Iran? Do we not sign any Russian players because of the Ukraine crisis? Do we not sign any Chinese players because of their appalling human rights record? Do we not sign any players from England because previously, England have started wars way back in the past? Where does this end? Where does this stop? It's absolutely pathetic. It's absolutely ridiculous. And, Dor Turgeman, for me, the only qualification for me is he a good striker? Yes, he is. Can he score goals for Rangers? Probably can. Should we sign him? Yes, we should. Why should we sign him? Because it'll improve our team. The fact that he is Israeli is neither here nor there. I wouldn't care if this lad was Israeli, if he was Chinese, if he was Russian, if he was Outer Mongolian, if he was from, I don't know where, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. I couldn't give a monkey's where he's from. If he comes and plays for Rangers and scores goals for Rangers, I genuinely don't care where he's from, right? And at the end of the day, does anyone honestly think that him playing for Rangers or him scoring goals for Rangers or even stopping him from playing for Rangers and stopping him scoring for goals for Rangers is going to sort out any issues in the Middle East. Are these people honestly stupid enough to think that by banning Israel from football competitions and by banning Dor Turgeman from moving to Scotland, it will sort out the Middle East problem, that it will sort out the issue that is currently ongoing in Israel? Of course it won't. It means absolutely zero difference, whether Dor Turgeman moves or doesn't move to this country. And I just find the whole argument that we shouldn't sign him because he's Israeli absolutely pathetic. I just think it's pathetic. And if you're one of those people, and I honestly have faith that Rangers fans have far more common sense than these moron Celtic fans and these moron Scottish Sport for Palestine people, who are absolute dickheads, just absolute woke morons. That our fans have a lot more intelligence, just have a lot more things about them to understand that this has zero to do with what is going on out in Israel. Absolutely nothing at all to do with what is going on in Israel. And like I said, you know what, to Scottish Sport against Palestine, I say, I genuinely don't care what you think. I genuinely do think you are absolutely talking absolute rubbish. And I hope we sign the player. I genuinely hope we sign the player for 3 reasons. 1, we need a striker. 2, he's a good striker who scores goals, something we need. And 3, it would really piss Celtic off. That's another good reason for me to sign him. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on Dor Turgeman. Please obviously drop them in the comments. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, please make sure that you like, comment, share and subscribe if you've enjoyed it. And we're back and we'll catch you soon here on the channel.